Hello everyone, Joseph WAMACK here from the Savannah First Seventh-day Adventist Church saying welcome to you from our Crater Roll room in our church. Very pleasant, isn't it? This is where our littlest kids come to have Sabbath school, which is like Sunday school from 10 to 11 on Sabbath morning, Saturday morning, but we haven't met since the middle of March because of the coronavirus. We're going to be meeting tonight actually via Zoom to try and determine when might be an appropriate time to open. It's just that there are a lot of cases still out there and a lot of other factors. Our church is being renovated, as you might have seen if you've been watching any of these videos. So we will determine that. TBD, to be decided when to open. Might be in July, early July. Yo no sé. So today I want to talk to you about a story that is in the book of Luke. I've been talking about some stories from the Gospel of Luke. Luke was a doctor, as I mentioned. There's 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called the Synoptic Gospels because they see kind of with a similar eye. That's what the word synoptic means, to bring together with one vision. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke all have the same story. It's called, generally called the paralytic who's brought to Jesus or something like that. The 4 friends who bring the paralytic to Jesus. And it starts, strangely enough in my mind, with a song from the early 60s. Now, I'm a child of the 60s, and there was a song written by Carole King, actually, and her husband, Jerry Coffin, called Up on the Roof. And it says, when this old world starts getting me down, and it's describing a world that's full of stress, and what do they do when you have a world full of stress? In this song they say, you go up on the roof, because up on the roof you just get a sense of the world around you, and you find relief and relaxation. So that's a nice thought. I've never lived in a house where you could go up on the roof, where it had a flat roof or a balcony or something like that. But that wasn't the case in the Middle East. In the time of Jesus, there were most of the houses, even now, there still are many houses where the roof is flat. And the people would use the roof of their house to take a walk, to dry their clothes, to eat, to sit out in the nice weather. There's lots of Bible stories that have the roof being used. Rahab hid the spies on the roof. When David saw Bathsheba, he was walking on the roof. When Peter had his dream of a vision of a sheet full of animals, he was on the roof. So the roofs were used frequently in those times. So it says that Jesus was teaching in a house, and he was teaching in a house that was so full of people, and not just people, but important people, important religious people, Pharisees and scribes and teachers of the law. All the important religious big shots came to hear him. Now, they didn't come to hear him maybe because they were interested in what he had to say, but they were interested to see if they could catch him in some sort of false teaching, some blasphemy, you might say, if they could catch him and then arrest him. So they weren't there for their own personal spiritual growth. They were there to check out this young upstart rabbi. So it says that the house was filled, mainly with important religious people. And somewhere in town there was a man who was paralyzed, who could not walk, and he wanted to get to Jesus to see if he might find some healing for his paralyzed legs. So he incorporates some friends, probably 4 friends, that had to carry him on a mat because he could not walk, and they did not have wheelchairs, I guess, in those days. And so maybe it wasn't uncommon for paralyzed people to be carried on a mat. Now maybe it was a mat like a yoga mat or a hammock or a slightly padded sheet. But somehow he said to these 4 guys, listen, I hear about this young rabbi, Jesus, and if you could just take me to him, I know that he could heal me and I could walk, so please won't you take me to him? So you might think that this would have been a matter of prayer for this man all of his life, to be concerned about his being able to walk. I mean, that would be something that would be in the forefront of your mind. If you could not walk, to one day I hope to walk. You would pray about it, you would dream about it, you would cry about it, you would agonize about it, you would go to any sort of medicine man or witch doctor to try and help you. You would be at your wit's end to find some answer to your prayers. And so he hears about this man, Jesus. Perhaps Jesus can help him. So he needs to get there. So he begs for friends to take him there. And as they are carrying him through town on this mat, I imagine him lying on his back and embarrassed perhaps, or scared, or anxious, and perhaps even constantly thanking these men for taking him there. He could not have made it on his own. He gets by with a little help from his friends. And sometimes it makes me think about the way we think God should move, the way we think our lives should go. And when there are struggles, and when there is hard work needed, and when there is worry, and when there is sweat, and when there is tears, we sometimes ask the question, where is God? Why am I not close to God? Why is God not doing what I want him to do? As if the struggle to be spiritually aware, as if the struggle to find healing, as if the struggle to be close to God should be easy. Nothing in this world is easy, but for some people, they sort of categorically think that getting close to God should be easy. And I guess I can understand that. If God is love, and God says, come unto me, and if we need what God wants to give us, then why isn't that easy? And the answer is, I don't know. It just isn't. All things in life are hard. If you want to get physically fit, you have to discipline yourself. You have to say no to food and bad foods and fattening foods over and over again. You have to say yes to exercise and a better way of living. You have to do that not just once, but over and over again. If you want to be smart in school, you have to study. You have to listen in class. You have to pay attention. You have to do the work. You have to struggle. You have to stay up sometimes with your studies. You have to pay money to get to where you want with your degrees. It's hard. If you want to advance at work, you must have to come in and be on time and do your work and look to help other people and be a good team player. It's not easy. So why is it that we think that in the spiritual world of getting close to God, things should be easy? This story in Luke chapter 5 demonstrates to us perfectly that to get to God, to get what you want, is not easy. You have to sometimes invest the help of other people. There's sweat, they're carrying, they are struggling to get this man there. And when they get there to the house, they see that the house is full. So now you have these 4 men carrying this man on a mat who's desperate to a house with a flat roof that they can't get in. So they see stairs on the side of the house, as many houses of that day have stairs on the side leading up to the roof, and they have to now drag this friend up to the roof, which would be perhaps quite dangerous, because if stairs were like that, then you have him potentially sliding off, down, bouncing all the way down the stairs. He's paralyzed. He can't do anything about it. So it's perhaps dangerous. There's no railing. He could have fallen off. So the struggle to get to God can be dangerous as well. The struggle to get to God can be sweat-inducing. And so they finally get this man up to the roof, and now what do? They hadn't thought that far. So it says that they took off the tiles off the roof, and they dug. They dug through the roof, which was kind of probably a combination of branches and mud and wood to create this strength to hold up a roof, to hold up a house. Now imagine the people in the house. They are full. Jesus is preaching, and all at once they hear this noise like rats or big rats. And they look up, and the roof is being opened up ahead of them, above them. Not only opened up a little bit, but opened up enough to put down a man who's on a mat. And now this man is being lowered down on a mat in front of all of these people. Imagine his worry and his shock and his anxiety as he realizes, I hadn't thought this through enough, and now I am ruining a man's house and ruining this sermon and ruining this whole event because I, in my desperation, needed to get to Jesus. And Jesus says an interesting thing to him. He says, "Your faith has made you well." And the man gets up and walks at one point in the story. So the man came for healing, physical healing, and the first thing Jesus said to him is, "Your faith has made you well." Not that you should get up and walk, but he talked about his sins being forgiven and his faith making him well. So sometimes we come to God thinking we want one thing, when really what God wants to give us is another thing. So it's a struggle to get to God. And when we get there, we find out that what we really thought we needed isn't what we needed. Or we didn't realize we needed something else instead. And oftentimes in life, we struggle for one thing and we find out that we get something else. And perhaps in the end, we're glad we got that other thing rather than the thing that we thought we needed. I oftentimes think of some of my prayers. If I had gotten everything I'd prayed for when I prayed for it, I'd probably really be an unhappy person. So I'm thankful that God knows more than me. I'm thankful that it's actually a struggle to get to God, that it's not easy, that I would be spiritually lazy and spiritually obese and just sitting around thinking of things and I get them. I'm thankful that it's blood, sweat, and tears to get to God. If Jesus could pray in the Garden of Gethsemane and claw at the ground and sweat blood and say, "My Lord, if you could, please take this cup of sorrow from me." If he had to sweat it out to achieve something, then why should I think that I don't have to sweat it out? It's holy sweat. The struggle to get to God should be hard. It should be a struggle. It should cause us to examine ourselves and our motives. And are we really who we say we are? And do we need to be more than what we are? Or do we need to be less or something different? Because when we find God, not that he's hiding, but when we find God, we find that in God we have everything we need. And that's why people can say that God is the answer to every prayer, because ultimately he is. You'll find that God is all that you need. That is the struggle of life. And I, in my own small-minded, pea-brained way, am grateful for that. I'm grateful to have learned that 2 or 3 times in my life, that God is all I need. May that be your experience today, friends. God bless you, whatever you're going through. Realize you're not alone. There's other people that have gone through something similar. Maybe they can help you now. You can get by with a little help from your friends. God is always there, and just because it's a struggle doesn't mean that it's not real. It just means it's a struggle. So may you have holy sweat this week. May you work hard. May God bless you in all that you do, and we'll talk to you at another time.